At some point, maybe sooner than most people want to admit or believe, there's going to be a war fought with artificial intelligence at the center of it. Not giant robots with glowing red eyes marching down the middle of the street, so not necessarily the science fiction version of the AI wars, but artificial intelligence used to read the battlefield, to find weaknesses in the enemy's position, probing infrastructure, guiding weapons, executing kill orders. It's going to be used for logistics, for command and control functions, anything a general could do at light speed. It'll also be used for propaganda, for shaping what entire populations see and fear and believe. And when that happens, the story we're going to be told will be simple. Our AI is the good AI. Their artificial intelligence is evil. Ours protects freedom. Theirs threatens civilization. Again, this might all sound like science fiction, but I assure you it is real. It's already happening. The way this is all currently being framed, especially within the community of people most tuned into what's happening in the AI world, requires a bit of a reality check. The USA and China are not the same. There are real, serious differences, including those related to ethics and morality. Now, we have to be fair. America is not perfect. We have a concentration of power. We have surveillance and manipulation. We certainly have our share of corruption. I've talked about those failures before, and I'll call them out when I see them. But America's not China. We don't operate a one-party surveillance state. Even if both of our political parties edge us closer to that reality every day, thank God we're not there yet. We don't jail booksellers for selling the wrong biography or maintain labor camps for minorities. Not today, anyway. And we don't treat peaceful dissent as a threat to be erased. The differences matter. Pretending they don't exist in the name of trying to sound balanced, that's not wisdom. It's dishonesty. But being better than China, being freer than China, doesn't make America any more immune to the same kind of temptations. If a tool can deliver power, you have to control it. If it can be weaponized, well, weaponize it. And you better do it now before the other guy does. This is an age-old trap. It's called Moloch. Named in the Hebrew Bible, utterly rejected. This was a power, perhaps a false god, to which children were sacrificed. Today, it describes a race towards catastrophe, where all of the participants very much are aware of the dangers. We all understand what lies ahead, potentially. But we can't stop running because we're afraid the other guy will get there first and win. AI may be the most powerful version of this trap humanity has ever built. My name is Gil Paul, and welcome back to the Human Precipice. The AI arms race is real. National security concerns are real. The United States can't simply opt out while China, Russia, Iran, and other bad actors, or criminal networks or terror groups, build whatever capabilities they can. Remember that defense and offense in an AI system are generally the same skill set. They're born out of the same data. The models that are trained to find a weak spot in a security system so that it can be repaired can also find it so that it could be hacked. The system that detects propaganda can also write it and distribute it, sometimes brilliantly. The same intelligence that can be used to help defend soldiers can guide weapons towards the enemies. So clearly, I'm not arguing that America should disarm. I'm not suggesting we hand the future to Beijing because somehow we've grown so spiritually evolved we don't want to compete. That's not wisdom, that would be surrender. But we do need to understand that not every response can be justified. That because we believe China is worse, we're somehow above corruption. That because our system is more democratic than theirs is, every AI we build will be trained on the same democracy or our democratic values. There's nothing in our history to support that kind of confidence. I want to explain why I felt so compelled to write and share this episode. It wasn't a missile or a drone attack or any of the current wars being raged around the world. Again and again, I've been watching people describe China as though it's some hero of open intelligence, the generous alternative to greedy corporate America and a controlling American government. According to this framing of way too many AI experts, the United States created a problem and China arrived to democratize the solution like the White Knight. For those that may not understand what I'm talking about or be fully aware of the situation, China's been making incredibly cheap and very capable AI models that people can just download and run themselves. Not typically on their home systems if they go with the big, powerful models, but they're very inexpensive to use and you can run them up in the cloud. And if you have the money, you can build your own servers to run them. This reduces dependency on the handful of American companies, the big frontier models that you always hear about in the news, like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude. This is genuinely important. And these alternatives to large open source models, it's generally accepted as a very good thing by me too. I do think alternatives are good. Competition is good. But this pro-Chinese messaging really amped up just as the United States government was taking action to limit access to these same frontier models because of security concerns. And we'll get back to that. But let's be clear about why China has taken the approach they have. Their open weight or open model strategy has helped its labs close the capability gap, attract developers, create enormous ecosystems. They've placed Chinese technology underneath products being built all over the world. That's not about generosity. That is strategy. You lower the cost, you expand adoption, you build an ecosystem. If you can, you want to be the technological foundation that everyone else depends on. And we've seen versions of this pattern out of China before. Manufacturing, steel, electronics. We've seen it in pharmaceuticals, consumer goods. The idea is very simple. You make the economics impossible to resist. The dependency of the markets grow, and then you hold all the leverage. On June 30th, I wrote about China's decades-old strategy making something irresistibly cheap. You, again, encourage dependency, and then you move to control the market. I also warned that governments would eventually move against open source AI. It's really just a modern form, even if it's a more dangerous form, of dumping. And where you have dumping, you have anti-dumping. On July 5th, 2026, I predicted that China's open source generosity would end the same day that they had a model they thought was strong enough to compete globally. And then on July 7th, 2026, Reuters published their report that Chinese authorities were meeting with major tech companies and potentially restricting overseas access to what had been and have been open source models. I expect that my experience working with China is what made this eventuality so obvious to me. And I should clarify something here. I have spent a good amount of time, a good part of my career, working with factories in China. I've been there several times, and I have to say, I'm amazed by the vibrancy of their culture, their art, their history. I have colleagues in China that I enjoy working with, and I respect them and consider some of them to be friends. This is the way of people. People can be friends. People can share love and admiration. So, what's sitting in the mind of a developer working in the field of AI in China? What are their intentions? Probably to do the best job he or she can do, no different than what I would do. But you should understand, China's leading labs do not exist outside of the party state. Their companies depend on the blessings of Beijing, on regulatory permission, on access to capital, infrastructure, data, the continued right to operate. And when Beijing decides that openness no longer serves China's strategic interests, whatever a researcher's ideas may be or a company's commercial preferences won't decide the course of action. They have little control of their own individual futures. The state will decide. Maybe it's not that much different than here in the USA. When intelligence becomes part of your nation's strategic infrastructure, it's going to get locked down. We don't let people mess around with nukes either. So in June, the government ordered Anthropic to deny Fable and Mythos to every foreign national, even foreign nationals working in their own organization. And because Anthropic didn't have a practical way to shut it down just for foreign nationals, it was shut down for everyone. And maybe people outside of the AI world hardly knew about what was going on, but I can tell you that people inside of the AI world, myself included, were kind of losing our minds. At around the same time, we learned that OpenAI's latest ChatGPT model was also being held back by the US government. Eventually, Anthropic's Fable and OpenAI's latest models were released, but definitely you can't say they were just set free. Security-sensitive requests are being blocked or redirected to older, less capable models. Mythos remains still very tightly controlled, and I'm not sure if anyone really knows if anything was done to the OpenAI models before they were released, if they were hobbled in some way or allowed to go through as they had been originally designed. The point isn't whether every restriction was unreasonable. The most powerful models can present real risks. The point is that advanced intelligence is no longer being treated as ordinary software. It's being treated as a national security issue, as part of our national security infrastructure. And national security infrastructure, it comes with access lists. It comes with government oversight and boundaries for use. And rightfully so. This doesn't make the United States and China morally equivalent. The systems are not equivalent. The means aren't equivalent. The consequences, if you exhibit some kind of dissent, certainly not the same. But the strategic incentive, the initiatives, control the strongest intelligence before the other side does. Now, China's already showed us what centralized control looks like when authoritarianism is the operating system. AI will only advance it. America presents the harder test and an unanswered question. Can a free society defend itself, maintaining its freedom? Can we remain a free society without gradually installing the same kind of controls we're seeing in China? How often have we actually given up freedom for safety? How often have we been told that it's temporary, and once freedoms are sacrificed in the name of safety, how often do we actually get them back? Does anyone really think the United States government would be morally or ethically above the idea of using AI for mass surveillance of the American people? Well, we know the answer to that question. It's an absolute fact. It is a goal of the United States government to mass surveil the American people. And please, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. As I've discussed several times, it's not about the left or the right. Both want control of our reality. Remember that old propaganda poster that basically said the same thing to everyone? It was a poster hanging on the wall. The AI version of that says exactly what you need to hear. It understands your exact fears, your resentments. It knows your history. It knows your pain. China or the United States, the most effective control isn't going to be a soldier in the street or a book being burned. It's a search result that never appears. It's an AI model that gives one side of an argument while sounding perfectly natural. You won't feel oppressed. You'll feel well informed. And if a government can break a civilization's shared reality, they don't need to conquer it, not in the traditional sense. They can just sit back and watch civilization dismantle itself. So where does that leave us? I wish it was a clean and simple answer. America must defend itself, and China will certainly continue to defend its best interests. Open-weight AI models can distribute power, but they can also spread dangerous capabilities and strategic dependency. Closed models can be safer in some ways, but they'll concentrate power in the hands of a few governments, a few corporations, and those institutions are going to decide what everyone is allowed to know, what we're allowed to do. The answer can't simply be more control or no control. It's not a binary choice. And maybe it has to begin with a harder question. What are we trying to save? Is it freedom? And if it is freedom, are we willing to take the risks necessary to protect it? Because there will be risks. We'll need more models, more labs, a genuine open access. And we'll need a people who can think critically and who want to push back, who will challenge the system. I don't think the world's ever been a particularly safe space. And I could tell you for sure, freedom has never promised safety. But in a world where only governments and a few giant companies possess advanced intelligence, I don't know that that's safe either unless you're willing to be safe in a locked cage. We're going to need to decide, and I think pretty soon, is freedom worth the risk? Maybe the answer comes back to our ability to evolve. If we can evolve more quickly than the machines we're creating, so that those machines are trained on some better version of who we are, not what we were yesterday and not what we are today. But if those machines, the AI, can be trained on the very best of what we could be, maybe that's the answer. The next war is already being fought, and it's being fought with AI. And it's not good AI versus bad AI. It's just us. AI is the mirror. And when we put the AI to war, as we continue to weaponize it and point it at the enemy, it's not going to tell us anything about the AI's soul, but it will reveal ours. My name is Gil Paul. Thanks for joining me as we stand upon the human precipice.